Hello, this is Cameron Stewart with the Squak Sesh at RCC, but today we are somewhere different. I have someone with me. Could you introduce yourself and kind of tell us where we are?
Hi, I'm CJ Idle. I'm the Executive Director of the Museum of Archives of Rockingham County, and we are currently sitting in the 1970 Superior Courtroom.
That is amazing. And what amazing history here. It is absolutely beautiful. You need to come see it for yourself. When was this place established, or how did you guys get it?
So the courthouse itself was originally built in 1907. It had additions added in the 1930s, and then the part we're sitting in was added in the 1970s, and then there were further renovations in the 1980s. And then in 2011, the courthouse moved down the street, and in 2012, the Museum and Archives officially opened in this building.
Wow. So how long have you worked here? What made you want to start working here?
Let's see, I started in August of 2022, so about a year and a couple months I've been here. My background is in history and archaeology. And I started working in museums in 2017 at Old Salem and Kerner's Folly. And so when this position became available, I was like, well, it's still close by, so let's move up and actually take a chance at running a museum instead of just working in one.
That's amazing. And what made you have the calling towards history and, that kind of thing?
Growing up, I grew up in a historic house, and then my grandmother was very involved in the history of Kernersville, which is the town I grew up in, and I was always engaged with the work she was doing. And then when I went off to college, I discovered I had a knack for doing research and doing the historical process, so then I got engaged with that. And then I like being outside, so archaeology became my true calling. And then after doing that for a while, I wanted to settle down. Archaeology requires you moving quite a bit, so I settled down, moved back home, and thought museums would be the appropriate place.
That is great. So what is one of your, I know you're probably going to have a hard time picking, but what is one of your favorite pieces of this, or part of this museum that you like?
Probably my favorite piece we have in the collection is a secretariat desk over at Wright Tavern that was collected by the Historical Society, Rockingham County Historical Society, that we're pretty sure was made by Thomas Day. And if it wasn't made by Thomas Day, it was made in his workshop over in Caswell County. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Thomas Day was a free African-American carpenter who lived right next door to Rockingham County during the mid-19th century, sort of the height of the antebellum period, and he made some of the most beautiful, dark, rich mahogany wood furniture for anybody who could afford it, which tended to be the wealthier people of the state.
Wow. And you were talking about the Wright Tavern. What is the history of that? And how did the MARC obtain it, or how did it?
Yeah, so the Wright Tavern was built in 1815, completed 1816, I think is the way that worked out. If you've ever been in this part of Wentworth, there's some housing today, but let me back up. The courthouse we sit in is the third courthouse to sit at this location. When they made Rockingham County, they drew an X over the county and decided where those lines intersected, that would be the center of the county, and that's where they would put the courthouse and the county seat. So that's why Wentworth and the courthouse sit where they do in relationship with the rest of the county. And there really wasn't anything out here in the late 18th century. So they built the courthouse, and then the Wright family realized, hey, there's all these people who come into town for a couple weeks, a month at a time to go to court. They don't have anywhere to stay, so let's build this tavern. And back then, taverns are basically what hotels are today. So they built the tavern to house all the lawyers and judges who came into Wentworth for court. So they had a place to stay, a place to eat, and that stayed in operation as a tavern hotel into the 1920s. And then in the 1950s or 60s, the Rockingham County Historical Society became the owners of the tavern. In the 70s, they received state funding to renovate the tavern and restore it to what it looks like today, which took it back to its sort of 1830s, 1840s period construction. And then the reason the MARC has it today is because the MARC grew out of the Historic Society. So we are, in a sense, the Historic Society. So everything they owned got transferred to us when the MARC was officially created.
That being said, is there any additional information or anything like that you would like to share with the viewers today?
Yeah, so in addition to inheriting Wright Tavern from the Historical Society, they also gave us High Rock Ford Trail, which is in the southeastern corner of the county on the Hall River. It's a very short in and out trail, beautiful walk along the river. It's the oldest known gristmill site in the county, and it was also a Revolutionary War campsite that Nathaniel Greene used around the Battle of Guilford Courthouse. So you have a chance to get out there, walk the trail. We do have plans to update the trail here in the next year or so in partnership with the Dan River Basin Association. And we do ask that you leave it the way you found it. So if you find trash, please help us keep it clean, keep it available so everybody can enjoy the trail and the river.
Wow, that is a lot of history. And the fact that we have the knowledge of that and how the MARC has that today and people can come and view it in Rockingham County. Is there any cost to coming and touring or seeing the museum or the tavern?
Yeah, we charge $6. Yeah, $6 for the museum, $6 for the tavern, or $10 for both.
Okay, that is great. And like, what hours are you guys open?
That's a little complicated of a question to answer right now because we currently don't have any heating and air except for a couple of rooms, mostly the vaults where we keep the artifacts. So we're by appointment only right now, Wednesday through Friday, Wednesday through Friday. Mm-hmm. About 10:30 to 4 o'clock, because if we start after 4, you won't have enough time to do the full tour. And we're working on getting the HVAC fixed. We've received grant funding, state allocated funding, some private donations to help get that project going. And once we get the HVAC fixed, we're going to reassess our operating hours because we do need to change them to be a little more flexible, maybe have some Saturday hours, some later night hours. But right now, Wednesday through Friday, appointment only, just because we may come in one day and it could be 50 degrees in the building, and that's not comfortable for anybody. So we want to make sure everybody's comfortable and safe when they tour the building.
Right. So another question I would have would be, you have the appointments, that's great and glad it worked out, and hearing that the state and other people care for the museum, and I mean, I'm glad it's getting the attention it needs. What are ways that people locally can help the museum, or just kind of like what would be the best way?
So if you're interested in history and Rockingham County history, you can volunteer to come learn the history of the museum. So you can be a docent, help give tours. You can volunteer in our archives. We've got so many projects that need attention, and so many of the artifacts need attention that we just can't give them. So the more volunteers we can get in here, the better. Thursdays are quite a busy day at the museum. We have a solid team of about 6 or 7 volunteers that are here every Thursday working. So if you want to come join that group, we can find something for you. And it's not like we're just going to attach you to a project. We want to find what you're interested in, what your interest in history is, so that then we can find a project that will engage you and help reward the effort you're putting into it.
Wow. And thank you so much. And this is a great opportunity. If you're listening, you're a student, you're an employee who wants to learn more about our history in Rockingham County or just around us, or you just need, you're interested in history, you're going to be a history major, you need that experience, this seems like the right place to be. I've toured around this building and it is absolutely gorgeous, and the Wright Tavern is very impressive. So if you get a chance, please come visit, and thank you.